Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will give you a short step-by-step tutorial on how to correctly use a pipette. Pipettes are an important tool in any scientific setting as they allow us to measure out and dispense various liquids at very precise increments or measurements. In this video, I will be describing a 2-button pipette, which can be determined due to the control button here on the top having a total of 2 stops, alongside an ejector button here on the side. The first step in order to properly pipette is to make sure that our pipette has the correct range, which we can determine via the control button here on the top. Now, the pipette that I will be using in this experiment has a 100 to 100 microliter range, but this will work for all pipette buttons of various ranges. Now that we have the correct pipette we want to use for our experiment, we now go into our next step, which is attaching the pipette tip. There are various pipette tips, so it's important for us to ensure that we are attaching the correct one, as if we attach the wrong pipette tip, it'll create errors in our obtained value. When attaching a pipette tip, very simply, gently place your pipette into the pipette tip holder and drag out. This should not require any excessive force or cause any strain to our pipette, because if we are doing this, we are most likely attaching the wrong pipette tip. Here is a close-up of me attaching the pipette tip to my pipette. As you can see, I do not apply much pressure in attaching my pipette to my pipette tip, as all I do is place it in there and put a little bit of pressure and lift up, cause no strain, and as you see, my pipette tip is firmly attached. When pipetting, it is also important that we set our pipette to the correct volume we are looking to measure out and obtain. In order to do this, we must look at the pipette meter located here on our pipette. Now, as you can see, considering that I am using a 100 to 1000 microliter pipette, our pipette meter is set at 100, which means that we are set at 100% of our pipette's capacity, or 1000 microliters. Now, in order to change this, all we have to do is turn this little black dial on the side and lower it. Now, in order to calculate the value we are getting, if we are looking for something in the middle, all we would need to do is swirl this down to a comfortable number, as 100 would mean 1000, 50 would mean 500, and finally 10 would mean 100, our lowest value. Any values that would go above or below our pipette's range would become inaccurate and do not yield our desired value. Now, with our pipette tip attached, we are ready to start the pipetting procedure. When pipetting, we want to follow proper pipetting protocol in order to properly obtain our desired volume. In order to do so, we must have proper insertion angle and immersion depth of our pipette tip. Our desired insertion angle is going to be perpendicular to our liquid when collecting, as we want to avoid collecting any air bubbles in our pipette that can disrupt our total collected volume. We also want to have proper immersion depth, as if our pipette tip dips too far into our liquid, we may take up extra liquid due to the capillary effect. Now that we understand our pipetting techniques, we can now draw liquid into our pipette. To do so, we want to first gently press down our control button to our first stop and place our pipette into our liquid while taking mine into our insertion angle and immersion depth. Now, with our pipette tip inserted, we can now slowly draw liquid up into our pipette until our control stop. Here's a close-up of what I just described. As you can see, while keeping mine for my insertion angle and immersion depth, I press down on my first control button and lower my pipette into my liquid. Now, with my pipette safely into my liquid, I now slowly let go of my control knob and bring liquid into my pipette while keeping my pipette tip immersed. Now that it's completely, I slowly take it up and remove my liquid. Now we are ready to disperse our liquid from our pipette. When dispensing our liquid, we want to place our pipette tip along the side of our test tubes in order to help guide our liquid into our test tube without any possibility of splashing or catching any air. Once we are finished pipetting, we want to very simply hit the eject button located here on our pipette and remove our tip into our dedicated trash bins. Again, here's a close-up of what I just described. As you see, I place my pipette tip along the side of my test tube and slowly release all of my liquid into my test tube. After I reach my control button stop, I want to push, removing any excess liquid, and then remove my pipette tip. Now that I am done with my pipette tip, I can now go to my dedicated trash cans and remove it using my eject button. Alright, so thank you guys for watching this video. Be on the lookout for another video I'll be making about pipetting, where I'll be giving you a little rundown on how to make sure you're using the correct measurements on pipettes and dispersing the right amount of liquid and showing you the right and wrong ways to do it. So with that out of the way, again, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.